Imagine the worst volcanic eruption in recorded history, an event so catastrophic that it plunges the entire planet into chaos and darkness, causing global cooling and mass extinction. Now, imagine that this disaster is not a thing of the past, but something that could happen at any moment, potentially wiping out all life on Earth. Welcome to Yellowstone, America's ticking time bomb. Yellowstone National Park is world famous for its natural beauty. Covering more than 2.2 million acres, it encompasses everything from bubbling mud pots to magnificent canyons. Its most famous residents are, of course, its herds of bison, but there are also wolves, bears, elk, bald eagles, and much more. In short, it's a paradise for nature lovers. But just beneath this idyllic landscape lies a supervolcano which has been relatively quiet for about 640,000 years. That is, until recently. In the last century, the frequency of earthquakes around Yellowstone has increased drastically, and experts have detected alarming seismic activity at a depth of 9 kilometers. What does it mean? Is our planet on the brink of annihilation? Or are the authorities exaggerating the danger to scare us? Yellowstone's history dates back millions of years, formed by the movement of the North American and Pacific tectonic plates. The collision led to the formation of the Rocky Mountains and the Yellowstone hotspot, which is a magma plume rising from deep within the Earth's mantle. As the North American plate moved over the hotspot, it left behind a trail of magma chambers, creating what we know today as the Yellowstone Supervolcano. The first signs of volcanic activity date back to 2.1 million years, when the hotspot began creating a series of calderas or collapsed volcanic craters. These calderas eventually formed the Greater Yellowstone Supercaldera, a massive crater stretching over 43 by 28 miles. Over the next 1.3 million years, the hotspot continued to create magma chambers, forming the Yellowstone caldera, which is still active today. But things really heated up about 630,000 years ago, when the magma chamber beneath the Yellowstone caldera erupted in one of the largest volcanic eruptions in history. This eruption was so powerful that it blew the top off the mountain, creating the Island Park caldera, which is now occupied by the town of Island Park, Idaho. But this was just the beginning. The Yellowstone supervolcano continued to erupt several times over the next few 100,000 years, each eruption being more powerful than the last. Then, around 13,000 years ago, the magma chamber beneath Yellowstone emptied in what is known as the Lava Creek eruption, which was the largest eruption in the Holocene epoch, or the last 11,700 years. The eruption ejected an estimated 2,450 cubic miles of ash and pumice, covering much of the western United States, and even reaching as far away as Mexico. But despite these massive eruptions, Yellowstone remained dormant for the past 640,000 years, until recently. Some scientists believe that the recent increase in seismic activity could be linked to the wastewater disposal practices of the oil and gas industry. According to a study published in the journal Frontiers in Earth Science, the injection of wastewater deep into the ground could have triggered swarms of earthquakes near Yellowstone. The researchers analyzed more than 1,000 earthquakes that occurred between 2010 and 2016, and found that they were closely linked to wastewater disposal wells in the region. However, other scientists disagree with this conclusion. They argue that the increase in earthquakes is natural, and that there is no link to human activities. Only time will tell who is right. While the risk of a major eruption remains low, it is impossible to predict when it might occur. So what would happen if Yellowstone did erupt? We can look to past eruptions for some clues. During the Lava Creek eruption, for example, the explosion was so powerful that it generated pyroclastic flows, which are fast-moving currents of hot gas and volcanic matter that race down the slopes of the mountain at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour. These flows destroyed everything in their path, including forests, rivers, and even whole towns. In addition, the eruption threw tons of ash into the air, which spread across the western United States. Ashfall can have devastating consequences for both humans and wildlife. It can bury crops and contaminate water supplies, leading to food shortages and disease. For wildlife, Ashfall can suffocate fish in lakes and streams, and can also poison them by contaminating their food sources. And then there are the earthquakes. The movement of magma beneath the Earth's surface can cause significant seismic activity. Earthquakes can damage buildings, disrupt transportation systems, and trigger landslides and other natural disasters. They can also release dangerous levels of carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere. So how could such an eruption affect the rest of the world? The impact of a major eruption would depend on several factors, including the size of the eruption and the amount of ash and gases released. According to a study published in the journal Quaternary Science Reviews, a large eruption could inject between 1,000 and 3,000 cubic kilometers of ash and pumice into the atmosphere. This would lead to global cooling and disruption of weather patterns, with some regions experiencing colder temperatures and others facing more extreme weather events such as hurricanes and droughts. In addition, the eruption would release large amounts of sulfur dioxide, which would reflect sunlight back into space and further contribute to global cooling. But the effects of the eruption would not be limited to the environment. Global trade and travel could be disrupted by ash clouds, and the economic impact could be devastating, especially for industries such as aviation and agriculture. Food shortages and disease could also occur as ash and volcanic gases contaminated water supplies and buried crops. But the most alarming possibility is the scenario known as the Yellowstone blowout. This is essentially a hypothetical eruption that is so large and powerful that it changes the entire climate of the planet, causing widespread devastation and mass extinction. While this scenario is considered unlikely, it is still possible. And the recent increase in seismic activity has raised concerns among some experts. One of the main arguments against the blowout scenario is that it is too extreme and has never happened before. However, some scientists argue that past eruptions of Yellowstone may have had similar effects, and that the blowout scenario is simply a worst-case scenario based on what we know about the history of the planet. They point to evidence that past eruptions of Yellowstone have caused global climate change, including the 13,000-year-old eruption that is believed to have contributed to the extinction of some species of North American megafauna. Another argument against the blowout scenario is that Yellowstone is not the only supervolcano in the world. There are at least 12 other supervolcanoes that could erupt at any time and cause similar devastation. If a blowout did occur at Yellowstone, would it be the end of the world? Not necessarily. Life on Earth has endured several mass extinctions, and the current human population has many of the same advantages that helped our ancestors survive. For example, we have the ability to adapt and innovate. Humans have developed technologies that can help us cope with the effects of an eruption, such as early warning systems and evacuation plans. In addition, our global network of communication and transportation can help us respond quickly to the changing conditions and distribute resources where they are needed most. Of course, such an eruption would still be devastating and have profound implications for the future of humanity, but it would not necessarily be the end of the world. Some experts say that the Yellowstone supervolcano is a ticking time bomb, and that it is only a matter of time before it erupts again. Others argue that the recent increase in seismic activity is not unusual, and that a major eruption is not imminent. While it is impossible to predict when Yellowstone will erupt again, one thing is certain: it will happen again. Whether it is a small eruption or a massive blowout, we can only hope that we are prepared for whatever comes our way. What do you think? Is Yellowstone a ticking time bomb, or is it safe to visit? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, check out other videos about the amazing Yellowstone National Park. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates.